Hi guys! How are you today? Welcome back to my channel, Adventures in America. If you are new to my channel, my name is Jocelyn and I'm a dual citizen of the United States and the Philippines. Today we are going to talk about if Philippines is going to return to pre-pandemic travel rules. Before COVID-19, foreign tourists are allowed in the Philippines and they can stay up to 30 days visa-free, and they can extend their stay beyond 30 days as long as they pay the extension fee at the nearest Bureau of Immigration office. And also, Filipinos have the right to travel as long as you present a valid Philippine passport. And also, if you're a dual citizen, you can either present your valid Philippine passport or dual citizenship documents. However, beginning April 24th, dual citizens who do not have a Philippine passport can present their dual citizenship documents plus one more proof of Philippine citizenship, such as a PSA or NSO birth certificate. Also, before COVID-19, former Filipinos can travel to the Philippines through the Balikbayan program, which allows them to stay in the Philippines for up to 1 year visa-free. Also, the immediate relatives of former Filipinos, such as the foreign spouse or a foreign child or children, can stay in the Philippines for up to 1 year through the Balikbayan program. Also, before COVID-19, if a foreign spouse has a Filipino, a wife or child in the Philippines, he can travel to the Philippines without securing an entry visa or without getting an entry exemption document. Also, the question is, if Philippines is going to reopen before the end of this year, will they adapt the pre-pandemic travel restrictions? Here is my analysis. First, the Philippine government should remove the entry exemption documents for foreign spouse of a Filipino national who is based in the Philippines. Also, they needed to remove the entry visa requirement for foreign spouse as well. Second, dual citizens should not be required to provide additional proof of Filipino citizenship. I think it's enough that the dual citizenship documents are being presented to the immigration for entry plus the foreign passport. Third, foreign tourists should be allowed to travel in the Philippines, especially if they are fully vaccinated. However, this is just my observation. If the Philippine government has been requiring foreign spouse or foreign parent of a Filipino child based in the Philippines to require an entry visa, I think the Philippines is going to require foreign tourists to secure an entry visa as well before traveling. If Philippines is going to reopen in the next 6 months, foreign tourists, those who don't have any immediate relatives in the Philippines or those who are just visiting friends, must secure an entry visa abroad or from a Philippine consulate covering their residence before traveling to the Philippines. The reason is that foreign spouses or foreign parents of Filipinos have been imposed unduly burdened by securing an entry visa abroad. This is just my recommendation. Those foreign tourists or those who don't have immediate relatives in the Philippines or those visiting Philippines for tourism purposes or those who have fiancés in the Philippines should familiarize themselves with the requirements of acquiring a tourist visa or an entry visa. So this entry visa is the 9A visa, a non-immigrant visa, and the cost is around $30, and usually the duration of the visa is for 59 days. However, there are actually a lot of requirements for getting a 9A visa, and you need to show that you have the financial capacity to travel in the Philippines. Now, let's talk about the travel restrictions for fully vaccinated passengers. Currently, the Philippines is studying the proposal of putting a green lane for vaccinated passengers. The Department of Tourism is pushing for a policy that will reduce the quarantine period of fully vaccinated travelers to the Philippines to spur the tourism industry. The Department of Tourism in the Philippines has been observing the travel protocols for passengers going to Thailand, where fully vaccinated passengers are required to quarantine for 7 days. Currently, under the Philippine rule, vaccinated passengers are still required to quarantine for 14 days, and the first 10 days will be spent on a quarantine hotel facility. Now, let's define who is a fully vaccinated person. A person becomes fully vaccinated 2 weeks after the last dose or 2 weeks after the second dose. For example, if you are vaccinated with a COVID vaccine that requires 2 doses, so 2 weeks after the last dose, then you are considered fully vaccinated. For those who only require only 1 dose, such as the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, the fully vaccinated person is considered vaccinated 2 weeks after the first and only dose. I'm not sure if the Philippines is going to recognize all COVID-19 vaccines that were approved for emergency use. But I'm going to list here in my video the COVID-19 vaccines that were approved for emergency use by the World Health Organization. Pfizer, December 31, 2020 for emergency use. AstraZeneca, February 15, 2021. There are 2 types of vaccines. One is from Korea and one is from India. And also Johnson & Johnson was approved for emergency use on March 12, 2021. And Moderna on December 18, 2020. And Sinopharm, May 7, 2021. With regards to Sinovac, the authorization is still in progress, which means that its use has not been authorized as of May 2021. This is just my analysis. Philippines is still going to require quarantine for fully vaccinated persons. I wish the Philippines would just pattern their health protocols here in the USA. For example, if you are fully vaccinated, you are not required to wear a mask or quarantine. Also, the US does not require a mandatory hotel quarantine for 14 days. For those who are unvaccinated, here in the US, if you arrive without a vaccine, you are still recommended to quarantine for 7 days and get tested between 3 to 5 days after arrival. Now, let's talk about unvaccinated travelers. For example, in the Philippines, regardless of vaccination status, everyone still need to quarantine for 14 days. The first 10 days will be spent on a quarantine hotel facility, and the 4 days will be a home quarantine. This is just my analysis. Philippines will still require a mandatory quarantine for vaccinated persons, but it will somehow be reduced from the current 14 days, and I see that it's going to be reduced for 7 days if they are going to pattern their health protocols from Asian countries such as Thailand. If you watch my earlier video that I posted regarding the criteria to open the Philippines for tourism, there are certain factors that must be met before they reopen. First, there must be a vaccination rollout. Second, the community quarantine level must be more lenient, which is the modified general community quarantine. Now, to summarize what I've talked about in this video, I'm going to tell you that based on my analysis, Filipinos will continue to have an unrestricted right to travel. Number 2, former Filipinos will still be able to avail of the balikbayan visa together with their foreign spouse or children if they are all traveling together. Number 3, foreign spouses or foreign parent of Filipino child or Filipino national in the Philippines. These foreign spouses will still be required an entry visa, but the entry exemption requirement will be removed. And lastly, foreign tourists will be required to secure a visa abroad before traveling to the Philippines. Now, in regards to vaccination status, Philippines is going to adopt the quarantine requirement of 7 days if they are going to base their health protocols on neighboring Asian countries. For those who are unvaccinated, Philippines is going to implement the 14-day quarantine rule. The first 10 days will be in a quarantine hotel facility and the 4 days will be a home quarantine. I'm expecting that there will be huge changes with regards to travel restrictions effective June 1st. If there's any announcement from the Bureau of Immigration, I'm going to update you with that video, and I hope everything is going for the better and that Philippines will be reopening soon for tourism. Thank you guys for watching, and if you have any other questions or comments, please post them down below and I will get back to you as soon as I can. And also, if you recently traveled in the Philippines or in the US and you wanted to share your travel experience, I would really appreciate it if you post them in the comment section below so we may be aware of what actually happened during your stay. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel, and if you haven't liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I always welcome new subscribers. Thank you guys for watching. I hope everyone is staying safe and have a great day.